Now I just wanted to show you how a compost area might look like. We have some leaf mulch here. Now I spent the morning separating through different kind of materials, and there was a big pile on top of that old pile of compost there. And what we had is a lot of this kind of branches. We had some leaf mulch. And then what I've also done is I've gone through a lot of the kind of bigger branches and I've shredded them, and that's what that looks like. Then we have a pile here which is going to be all the green stuff. Plenty of flies there, so it's pretty much all just vegetables. It should really be mixed with brown stuff as well, so that's what's going to happen here. Then some of the smaller branches. This is the old compost pile here, which now is being sieved at the moment. And then we get this lovely black stuff here with very little branches left in it, and that's very important because of course too much carbon content in the soil will rob the nitrogen out of the soil, so we want to make sure that we have very little branches in there. Some of these smaller ones that are pretty soft already are okay, but you can see here some of this bigger stuff here is no good. Now we're using an old door here. Sieve through it and we end up with this lovely stuff here as well. Now, before we actually talk about how to make this compost heap, I wanted to show it to you first. I made this about 2 months ago and I made a video on it, which you will see now in a minute. But I just wanted to show you how good it actually looks, because often you don't get to see how well it actually looks. 2 months later already it's got some black stuff in it. Of course it's not totally broken down yet, but if you smelled this, if you could actually smell this, you'd be very surprised. You can see it's half decomposed. Still twigs in there that need to be pretty much broken down. There's worms in here, as you can see, which is great. It means now that the compost heap is actually cooled down. I mean, I even have some nasturtium flowers, nasturtium growing here. They just started off. So anyway, that's basically what it looks like. So maybe we can now have a quick look at how to make it. We're going to use some brown carbony materials, which is going to be like bark mulch in this case. You can also of course use paper, cardboard, leaves, even twigs. Then comes water. It's very important to water the heap, especially the brown bits, because fungi and bacteria can actually make use of them then in a better way. Then branches, which again is brown still, but the branches actually fulfill a different role. They allow air pockets and air to get into your compost heap. Air is very important for bacteria and fungi, for them to actually multiply and break down your heap. Then the next layer would be something rich in nitrogen, so a green material, and in this case I'm using old broken-ish down kind of veggie peelings. You can use fresh veggie peelings, cow manures, blood meal again, things like that. Then I would add soil, and that's just for the worms, so that they can have something to, some kind of small stones in the soil they can use for actually breaking down in their crop, breaking down compost material. They'll go in there at a later stage, so I'm adding soil just for that. Then eventually we just go back to the same process again, back to the browns. Then of course again watering away the brown materials. And every now and again I would actually use an inoculant, and that just means that you find maybe in the woods somewhere some fungi, white strands that are going through the actual leaf litter, and just inoculate your compost heap with that. Also using some maybe worm castings for the bacteria, or a nice compost that is well broken down and smells really sweet. Adding that every now and again as an inoculant is of course also very good. Another thing now is just quickly to talk about the different materials in the garden. Of course you're going to find different things, from weeds to food scraps to leaves to
even branches. And the way that works out is, if you can make sure that you have a certain amount of nitrogen in your compost pile and a certain amount of carbon, and the ratio of that is usually 30:1 or 25:1. So 25:1 of carbon, 1 being the nitrogen. Now if you can actually make sure that you add those quantities in the right amount of quantities into your pile, then of course the decomposition process is going to do really well. Just wait for this big lorry to pass. Take a breather anyway. So if you can make sure that this kind of materials at the right percentage is in your compost heap, then you're already winning. And the easiest way actually to do it is think of it as a sandwich. So in your sandwich you have brown, and then inside the middle of the sandwich you have things like lettuce and cheese or whatever you want to put in there, and it's just a thin layer. So you have quite a big layer of brown and a thin layer of the green stuff. So the green stuff would be nitrogen and the big brown stuff would be carbons. What I would also recommend is, if you do make it quite a high one, you want to make layers like the sandwich, so you'd have a brown, green, brown, green, brown, green. Add a bit of soil in between as well, just for the worms for at a later stage. And you want to just pack it up, you know, stack it up to about 1.50 meters, 2 meters high. And these kind of compost heaps you want to turn like maybe once a day, because as I said earlier, it's going to heat up a lot. Adding water to it is going to cool it down. And there's a really good way that actually Warren Brush just showed me. I didn't actually know this. I was using a thermostat. You'll get to know Warren Brush pretty soon. One of my videos. And what he did, normally I put in a thermostat to see that it doesn't go above 60 degrees. But what he did is he used a stick and puts it in the middle, and he just leaves it there. And what he does then is, when he takes it out after a day, if you can touch it and if you can hold it without letting go, it's not above 60 degrees. But if it's like hot to the touch, then you really want to turn it. Bring some oxygen in there, water it, and also make sure that all the dry bits, which usually have fungi on it, get the water as well, because of the, of course, the fungi, not just the bacteria, are going into this pile and actually decomposing it to make lovely compost. Now this kind of compost, if you make sure that you do it this intensely, that you keep an eye on it really well, you can actually use this kind of compost for compost tea instead of using it, instead of having to use worm compost. And that's a really handy thing. That means that you can actually make your own compost tea from compost that is coming from a pile, rather than having to have a whole worm compost and so on. Also try and bring in some microbes from a wormery, or even from an old compost heap that smells really sweet. So then you know that there's lots of bacteria in it. And then just inoculate it every now and again. Throw in a bit of some of this stuff in there. Let me just show you something as well quickly. This here now, these are hyphae, and that's actually the fungi that's decomposing this litter, this compost. So you want that in there as well. I hope that answered a lot of questions in regards to actually making your own compost. This is of course different from a wormery, where you would just have a kind of a very low 30 centimeter high heap. And just putting a lot of compost worms in there and just feeding them kind of high nitrogen materials and a little bit of kind of carbony materials as well. Now if you have any questions, as always, drop a comment here on YouTube, or ask away on Facebook, or wherever you like. I'll private message me, whatever you want to do. I'll always answer your questions. And yeah, thanks for watching.